Another earnings last week. IBM, IBM's been kicking off the big earnings waves quarter after quarter. Last week, Pat, we talked about the spinoff, and there was you can't really talk about the earnings there without talking about what the company had just announced in terms of a spinoff. The company stock took a bit of a hit. Revenue declined again for a third consecutive quarter from an annual standpoint, but the company did hit on revenue and earnings based upon the street's expectation. Now, the street's expectation has been largely set by itself because the company had stopped providing forward guidance after that first quarter with COVID. You got a new CEO with Arvind Krishna in there leading the helm. Definitely the ambition is to turn it into a cloud company. That's been the ambition. That's the reason for the sell-off of its managed infrastructure services at the end of 2021, almost $20 billion in revenue. But that $20 billion, close to 2018 plus, has largely been at a decline. That business is in a late stage. It's a declining business. It was down again, mid-single digits, dragging the whole company. So let's talk about where the strengths are, Pat. Cloud grew, the cloud and cognitive, which is another kind of bundled up group that includes a bunch of different products, 6%. The real excitement, though, comes down to Red Hat. Red Hat, once again, saw almost I think it was 16% up, 25% up in bookings for the quarter. And this is where the company's going to have to play. I feel, Pat, that the growth of the company, especially this growth of the stock price, will come when it starts to see growth that's more proportionate with its competitors in across the board. And the competitors I think that they're targeting are more your big cloud players. On the slower monolithic type growth rate, it's going to be more your Oracles, is going to be where it's competing with. But on the true hyperscale cloud, it's going to be your Googles and Microsofts and Amazons. And those companies, even as they've hit law of large numbers, are still growing 30% in the cloud business. Microsoft's still growing close to 50%. And IBM, even with Red Hat at its peak, is really hitting only about 20. I think the street would probably forgive some of the slower growth portions of the business from IBM if its cloud business started growing 30, 40, 50%, because that's the only way you're really going to start showing any tracking and catching of your bigger hyperscale cloud providers. I do think the company's doing a lot of things well directionally. It's focusing in on being an enterprise cloud. It's not really trying to be the cloud player for every little cloud app and startup that's building. It wants to be the cloud for banks. It wants to be the cloud for government. And it's tapping into its deep experience with mainframe, with Linux, of course, with the Red Hat and OpenShift to be able to do so. But as a whole, the company, has to deal with GTS being a lag, GBS being a lag. Effectively, systems is a super cyclical business, Pat. I know you work really closely with them, but that business had some great momentum when Z15 came out. But after Z15 hit its cycle this quarter, it was a big drag on the revenue this particular quarter. But in order to get to where I think the company needs to go, it needs to show that ambition and that growth, and it needs to do so mid double digits in cloud is what I think. Mid single to low double overall growth after the divestiture. And Pat, and something I think you will co-sign on with, has to be a company that's delivering a satisfying and exciting product to those enterprise customers. Meaning, I think if they deliver to the customers, the growth will follow. And that's what we need to watch really closely.
Really good analysis, Daniel. And I'm trying to think where I can add in there. I mean, I am very happy with the Red Hat performance. I think it's important to point out, very similar to Red Hat, is they have a lot of on-prem business, right? And getting growth into that 30, 40% on cloud with a customer set who aren't exactly what I call the first movers is going to be a challenge. I'm wondering if GBS gets ejected at some point down the road. I mean, if they want to be looked at as an AWS or an Azure or a Salesforce, I'm wondering how this happens. So far, I'm impressed with current management, and I feel like that the current management team kind of knows what they have to do, and it could mean a lot more change in the future. And I hope that if that's the case, they make it and they do it quickly and they don't break the company in the process. I've seen companies do things for what Wall Street wanted and not customers wanted, and destroyed the company. Look at GE, at where they were 10, 15 years ago. They created their company to be a Wall Street darling, and for a while they were, and it worked out until they were no longer the darling. And they started to jettison assets to stay in business.
Absolutely. And Pat, you hit it on the head. That's why I ended it with customer has to still be first. And I feel that that's the focus, is being that enterprise cloud company.